On the morning of April 3rd, 2026, Aryna Sabalenka opened her Instagram and casually scrolled through her feed. She expected the usual blend of fan messages, match highlights, and sponsorship alerts. Suddenly, one post made her pause mid-scroll. The world number one, who had just completed the rare Sunshine Double triumph at Indian Wells and Miami, a feat achieved by only 5 women in tennis history, had officially crossed 5 million followers. She had now become the most followed active female tennis player on the planet, moving past Maria Sharapova and steadily approaching Serena Williams' legendary social media footprint. On paper, this milestone reinforced her supremacy both on the court and beyond it. Yet the reports coming from Linz, Austria painted a completely different picture. An estimated 45,000 Filipino fans had poured into the small city of just 200,000 residents. They had not come for Sabalenka, they had not come for the tournament itself. They had come for 20-year-old Alex Eala. Ranked world number 45, a player who had never won a Grand Slam and who had just slipped from number 29 after a heavy defeat to Karolina Muchova, Eala had somehow captured the hearts and imagination of fans across entire continents. Sabalenka watched the videos in disbelief. A massive sea of Philippine flags waving proudly, thunderous chants of Laban Alex ringing through the city streets, and a stadium struggling to hold even a small portion of the supporters who had journeyed hundreds and even thousands of miles to see the young Filipina star. For the first time in her career, the world number one faced an uncomfortable reality. True influence in tennis was not only about world rankings, major titles, or social media numbers. It was about deep connection, emotional resonance, and the rare power to inspire an entire nation and unite people in ways that cold statistics could never measure. The contrast was undeniable. Sabalenka might have reached 5 million followers, but Alex Eala possessed something far more powerful, a living phenomenon that had transformed a quiet Austrian city into the beating heart of Filipino pride and passion. And for the first time, Sabalenka felt what it truly meant to be upstaged, not by superior play on the court, but in the hearts and minds of the global tennis audience. Aryna Sabalenka's Instagram following had now surged past 7 million, and she was quickly closing the gap on the all-time legends. By every conventional standard, she stood as the queen of WTA popularity. Her social media dominance did not happen by chance. It was built upon her most successful tennis years: 8 Grand Slam finals, 4 titles, and a long streak of powerful match victories that had made her a global household name. Off the court, her engagement to Oakberry CEO Georgios Frangoulis earned more than 1.2 million likes. Her fun dance videos and intimate behind-the-scenes glimpses into her personal life helped fans around the world relate to her on a human level. Every post, every story, and every TikTok was thoughtfully crafted to strengthen her personal brand. But the extraordinary scenes unfolding in Austria told a story that no social media analytics could ever capture. An estimated 45,000 Filipino fans had flooded into Linz, a city of just over 200,000 people, for the Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open. Hotels were completely booked, restaurants were overflowing, and the streets were decorated with flags while fans chanted Laban Alex non-stop. They had traveled from Vienna, Germany, Switzerland, Italy, the United Kingdom, anywhere a flight could take them. The tournament venue could only hold around 5,000 spectators, yet the crowd outside had grown to nearly 3 times that size. The difference was striking. Sabalenka had 7 million followers on a screen, a number that measured digital reach but not real physical presence. In contrast, Alex Eala had 45,000 people physically present in Linz, screaming, cheering, waving flags, and living their support in real time. One was digital influence. The other was pure, tangible devotion. In less than 6 months, Sabalenka had grown her following from 3.8 million to 7 million, the fastest growth of any WTA player. Her rise was a perfect example of modern athlete branding: strategic, careful, and precisely calculated. Yet no algorithm could have predicted the unstoppable force that Alex Eala had become: a cultural phenomenon, a wave of pure energy that turned a modest Austrian city into a vibrant celebration of Filipino pride and identity. Numbers certainly mattered, but real presence, burning passion, and genuine human connection were something entirely different. Why were 45,000 fans willing to descend upon a city of just over 200,000, filling every street, hotel, and restaurant beyond capacity? Why did the stadium overflow with loud chants of Laban Alex that rang louder than any match point? The answer was both simple and deeply meaningful. Eala was more than just a tennis player. She had become a powerful symbol of possibility and a living bridge for a vast Filipino diaspora spread across continents. For Filipino fans, watching her compete was not merely about tennis, it was about national identity, pride, and representation. Sabalenka's social media following was enormous and built on smart strategy, charisma, and wide global appeal. But it remained digital, a world of screens, likes, and comments. Eala's support was physical, deeply felt, and emotionally alive. It traveled through airports, filled hotels, and transformed a quiet clay court in Linz into a spectacle that felt more like a Davis Cup final than a standard WTA 500 event. Experienced commentators and referees had been amazed by this clear difference. One referee observed, "When players come from countries like the Philippines, the stadium feels like a Davis Cup venue. People are cheering for their country, not just for one player." That is the kind of distinction that no Instagram following can ever replicate. Sabalenka is a champion. Eala is a movement. The Eala effect had been discussed in quiet conversations and bold headlines for months, from ticket surges in Dubai to merchandise madness in Miami. But Austria had made it impossible to ignore. This was not mere hype. It was a genuine phenomenon. A 20-year-old ranked 45th in the world with no Grand Slam title to her name was redefining what it meant to attract fans, transform a tournament, and rise above the sport itself. While social media metrics could track popularity, nothing could measure the raw energy, intense fervor, and unwavering devotion that followed her wherever she went. Why were tens of thousands of fans ready to travel to a small Austrian city for a WTA 500 tournament? Why were they willing to spend thousands of dollars on flights and hotels, take leave from work, and rearrange their lives just to watch a 20-year-old who had never won a Grand Slam? Marketing experts explained it clearly. It was connection. For the Filipino diaspora, Eala represented more than tennis. She was living proof of what was possible, evidence that a child from Manila could reach the world's biggest stages and be recognized. She embodied the overseas Filipino worker OFW dream, that sacrifice, perseverance, and hard work could create something extraordinary. The Philippines has over 115 million people, and its diaspora adds millions more nurses in Dubai, engineers in California, carers in Canada. For decades, this huge global community had no tennis player they could truly call their own. Now they had Eala. John Eisner said it simply on the Nothing Major podcast. "It's a huge market. I think a lot of people underestimated how big that market is. They finally have a star on the women's side of the game." He added, "She's doing what no other player is doing. She's bringing new fans to tennis. She's inspiring a nation that has value, and the ranking system doesn't measure it." Paul Annacone, former coach of Roger Federer, highlighted what made Eala special. "She's got a smile that lights up a room." But the fan stuff is always fun to me, because whenever you see players from smaller countries, the fans are so passionate when they get to the top. And that passion is tangible. From Miami to Dubai and now in Linz, the Eala effect was not just a social media trend or marketing idea, it was a powerful, real-world force. Stadiums filled up, flags waved high, chants filled the air, and every match turned into a joyful celebration of identity and representation. This was the kind of organic, emotional, and transformative connection that no ranking, sponsorship, or tournament advertising could ever create. This passion was shining brightly in Austria. Fans were not simply watching, they were creating an unforgettable spectacle. Flags waved, Laban Alex chants echoed through the streets, and every part of Linz seemed alive with excitement. When news of the 45,000 fans arriving in the small Austrian city reached Aryna Sabalenka, her public response was calm and measured. In a short statement released through her team, she said, "It's great to see so many fans coming to support women's tennis. Alex has an incredible following, and I respect that." However, people close to Sabalenka revealed that the numbers had touched a sensitive spot. She had spent years carefully building her brand, winning Grand Slams, and rising to world number one. She had just achieved the Sunshine Double, a rare accomplishment held by only a few women in history. She had reached 5 million Instagram followers, more than any other active WTA player. And yet, a player ranked number 45, who had never won a Grand Slam and who had just dropped from number 29 after losing to Karolina Muchova, was drawing crowds that Sabalenka could only imagine. The contrast was sharp, and the tennis world had noticed. Michael Query asked on the Nothing Major podcast whether such popularity could cause jealousy among higher-ranked players. John Isner brushed it off, saying he did not think there was any jealousy, it was simply part of the game. But those who knew Sabalenka's fierce competitive spirit understood that she wanted to be number one in every possible way, in rankings, in titles, and perhaps now in the hearts of fans too. Watching Eala's fan base explode while she herself struggled to fill stadiums in events where Eala was not even playing was a difficult reality to ignore. The tension between pure merit and massive popular appeal was hitting her deeply, not in points or trophies, but in recognition and emotional connection. Her frustration had shown itself before, though rarely in public. Insiders said she had privately wondered why a player with fewer achievements, less experience, and a lower ranking could inspire such strong devotion. Still, Sabalenka's famous intensity and mental strength had always powered her comebacks on the court. Now she faced a different challenge, adapting to tennis's new reality, where influence, charisma, and cultural connection carried equal weight with traditional success. In Linz, as Eala prepared for her clay season debut, Sabalenka was not just competing in a tournament. She was confronting a powerful reminder that the game had evolved. Rankings, titles, and follower counts told one story. The overflowing stands filled with Filipino fans chanting and waving flags told another. For Sabalenka, the real question was no longer only about winning matches. It was about understanding a force she could not simply overpower on the court, something far stronger than any statistic. The atmosphere in Linz was electric, a living energy that no ranking or seeding could contain. Every chant, every waving Philippine flag, and every roar of Laban Alex echoed not only inside the arena but across social media, news reports, and hearts around the world. It served as a clear reminder that tennis was more than a sport of points and winners. It was a platform for connection, identity, and representation. Eala's clay court record was still modest, 3 wins in 10 tour-level matches and no deep runs at majors. But in Linz, she was not merely a player. She had become a movement, a symbol, and a beacon for an entire diaspora that had waited long for visibility in professional tennis. Her opponents might have more clay experience, more titles, and more honors, but they did not carry a crowd that felt personally connected to every single shot. This Linz Open felt unlike any other. Every serve and every rally was watched by thousands who saw their own dreams and struggles reflected in her journey. For Eala, it was a test of patience, smart tactics, and strong mental power, the true demands of clay tennis. But it was also a test of grace under enormous public pressure. She had spoken before about feeling the weight of an entire nation on her shoulders, and that weight had now grown even heavier. As the matches continued, every point and every set would not only shape her ranking, but would also send ripples of pride across the Philippines and the global Filipino community. A semifinal would move her back toward the top 30. A runner-up finish would take her to a career high of 26, and winning the title could lift her to 23, dramatically changing her path. But beyond all numbers, Eala had already achieved something no ranking list could ever measure. She had sparked a powerful movement and shown that in tennis, passion, identity, and community can matter just as much as trophies. As the Design Center Linz echoed with chants, drums, and unstoppable energy, Eala stepped onto the court carrying more than just her racket. She carried the hopes of a nation, the pride of a worldwide diaspora, and the unstoppable force of the Eala effect, a phenomenon that went far beyond rankings and statistics, reminding everyone that sometimes the greatest victories happen away from the scoreboard. The truth had become impossible to escape. Success on the scoreboard and success in the hearts of fans were not the same thing. Sabalenka had mastered the first Grand Slam titles, world #1 ranking, and major Instagram milestones. But the Eala phenomenon had revealed a new and powerful dimension of influence in modern tennis, deep cultural resonance. Sabalenka could dominate matches, but she could not create what Eala naturally embodied, the real, deeply felt connection that turned a simple WTA 500 clay event in Linz into a grand festival of national pride. For Eala, every match was more than competition. It was a stage where her community saw its own story reflected. Every serve, every rally, and every moment of courage was made larger by the thousands who had crossed oceans to witness it. The ranking system might not fully value her results, but no algorithm could ever calculate the power of 45,000 fans chanting her name, the viral videos spreading worldwide, or the inspiration she gave to young athletes who finally saw themselves represented in professional tennis. Sabalenka might collect trophies, but Eala was winning hearts. And in the changing world of the WTA, both kinds of success were important. For the tour, for sponsors, and for the global tennis family, this was an important wake-up call. Numbers alone could not define a player's true worth. Influence, representation, and the ability to bring thousands of fans together were equally valuable, and Eala had shown herself to be exceptional at all three. As Linz continued to fill with chants and Filipino flags, and as the clay season stretched forward, the story of 2026 was no longer just about titles and rankings. It was about connection, identity, and the beautiful truth that tennis, at its greatest, can inspire far beyond the lines of the court. For Aryna Sabalenka, it was a valuable lesson in perspective. For Eala, it was her moment to rise, to compete, and to keep redefining what it truly means to be a champion. The one thing even the world number one cannot simply buy is true, heartfelt devotion.